Okay, well, let's just get into your question. Let's get into what you.
Okay, okay. So, all right. So, thank you for joining me, Dr. Lori Smith, today. When I knew you, you were also Lori Washington. So great to have you. So, I know you're a retired senior leader from the government and an award-winning GovCom insider. And I saw that you've managed over $128 billion in government contracting as a contracting officer. I think it's so good that people are going to hear your story and your unique journey. And my hope is that someone who's listening to this, even years from now, hears something that will really change how they think about their future. So I love to start by simply learning more about you. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your career. Just tell me your story. I'd love to hear it.
Well, Daisy, as you mentioned, you and I, we crossed paths, and what was that, 88, 89, in Comiso, Sicily. And it was really amazing to come full circle and see you again. What was it, 23, 24 at a round table in Atlanta, Georgia. So great to see you again. And great to see that you still are the Daisy with the beautiful smile and doing wonderful things. So really appreciate on all the things that you're doing. My story, I'm actually in the process of writing a book. It's called Rising Beyond the Shadows. And it's going to be released here soon. I need to finalize some things. But it talks about my life, my journey, that with faith and pursuit. I started my journey in government in 1979 as an intern at Robins Air Force Base. I was raised in Macon, Georgia, uh, daughter of a Pentecostal minister. And so we was raised to carry ourselves a certain kind of way. So my first job was with Nancy Pakowski. She was a nurse, occupational safety, and I think she was of German descent. But it was great to have another older woman that actually mimic or reaffirm what the ladies from the church had said, right? And of course, from there, I worked in Robins Air Force Base through high school. After high school, joined the Air Force Reserve for 4 years before I transitioned to active duty military. And I think when I transitioned to active duty military, my first duty station was at Myrtle Beach Air Force Base. And I had the honor and the privilege of having a Master Sergeant Karen Armstrong, another woman of color, that sat me down and told me exactly what it would take for me to be successful. She told me exactly what I would endure as a woman of color, in the military. And she also told me, she said, Lori, your story, the accomplishments that you make, it is your responsibility to capture and write them down. She said, do not let someone else tell your story. She said, give it to them so that they can just sign off on it. And I carried that through my whole military career, because what I learned is that more often than not, things that you do get taken from you and given to someone else for them to get credit of. And so when she told me that, and going through my career from one installation to another installation, I've always just had the privilege, to dictate, my trajectory, dictate what I would do, what I wouldn't do, how I would be used, how I would not be used. But then I always wanted to be in service of others. Who can I help along the way? How can I support? How can I, help you out? And so that's a philosophy and a mindset that actually carried me, through my whole military career. But the beauty of it is that the military, it was easy for me, I say, because it had already been rooted in me as a child in the church. So I wasn't doing anything. Service is service. I'm always trying to do things in excellence to the Lord. I don't shy away from my faith and my belief. So I was just always trying to do the right thing. And I've had a wonderful career as a result of it. Had a wonderful career, and now that I've transitioned into entrepreneurship, I'm just again trying to still have the torch lit so that I can pass it, along or behind whoever's coming in behind, so that we can give it to, so that their candle can stay light as well. So hopefully that got to some of what you wanted to hear. I didn't want to just go on and on because my story is quite detailed and fabulous, but I just wanted to do that high level overview. So hopefully that works for you.
It does. And yes, it's fabulous. You're like, yes, my story is fabulous. I love that. I love that. Now, when you look back at your public service, like what are what are some a couple of the proudest moments of it?
Wow, I had a lot of proud moments. My again first duty station, Myrtle Beach Air Force Base, receiving section. I came in there. We put together our own little rhythm of how work was going to be. Ended up being the only section in all of the squadron to get an outstanding during the UEI inspection. It had never happened, but that inspection, I briefed the inspector. It was 15 minutes of me talking. I'm telling you everything you wanted to ask me. You don't have no questions. So that was a proud moment. Of course, as you make rank, go from one location to the other, that's a proud moment. How I was able to re-establish my footing after Hurricane Andrew, being a new mom, losing everything, relocating, and telling yourself, from a mental perspective, despite the fact that you had a job still with the military, man, but mentally you went through everything every other woman of color that was a single parent went through. And so, had I not had that job, man, I would have been there standing in line with them. I had to be. I mean, it just give you a whole new way of looking at things. So again, being able to go to Eglin, reestablish my footing, secure my son's, foundation, so that he would never be impacted that, and get rooted and settled, and so focused on obtaining my degrees. Because again, been in the military, traveling to and fro, had went to some college courses. Hey, I had trained to be a course stenographer, had done some things, but I was undereducated, not uneducated, undereducated. So
Mm.
why would I want to be in that position again? Never do that to my child again. So again, determined and obtained my degree. Did a 4-year degree in about 2.5 years. Had support of someone to help me with childcare, had support of the counselors. It was this system that came around my determination. So that was a proud moment for me. Serving in a volunteer capacity, making things happen in the community, establishing, Sickle Cell Anemia Foundation in Fort Walton Beach. That was a proud moment for me. As I even went overseas and in Sicily, cooking for y'all was a proud moment for me because
And we
again,
loved it.
because again, I was unaware of how advanced those skills were because I had observed coming from a big family. But man, being able to serve, and that became a tradition. So from that point on, everywhere I went, I was always feeding people, especially abroad and especially during the holiday season. It's like, it just become this extension of service. I volunteered, so many proud moments. Uh, the transition of Fort Belvoir Community Hospital as a civilian, that was a proud moment for me. Working for the Strategic Acquisition Center, Department of Veterans Affairs, whether it was the top 20 contracts that I negotiated, and actually did like a 45-day turn on those things. And, being the CEO for the Region 4 Community Care Network contract, that was a proud moment for me because ultimately I ended up with the whole portfolio. So the $128 billion number you actually meant to was actually for that one portfolio. Over my career portfolio, it's about 143 to 151, advising and engaging with over 11,000 contractors. Those are proud moments. Did I get the Outstanding Civilian Award for the Army and the VA? Absolutely, I did. Those was proud moments. Being able to leave federal government and one of my managers become my replacement was a proud moment because the goal of leadership should be, let me build you to replace me. The chair is not mine to have. So I'm developing you to replace me theoretically or physically. That's how it should be. Seeing all of my managers get promoted to 15s, that's a proud moment because it shows that, hey, you weren't serving by yourself. You serve in humility of others, and you develop them and you help them grow. And so there's a lot of becoming a mom, even out of wedlock, was a proud moment for me because I had to do that thing, y'all, and I don't like pain. And, and childbirth is actually a messy process. So that was a bit for me. But, that was a proud moment. Meeting my husband ultimately was a proud moment, because again, I had to been at the well, being mindful that getting pregnant out of wedlock ain't something we have to settle on as our fate. No, if it ain't working out, hold your head up high, do the things that you need to do, be a mom and serve that role with honor and get your butt at the well with that pitcher of water. Eventually, the thirsty dude is going to come up that's worthy of taking a drink. And that's what happened to me. It took I was in my mid 40s, but girl, got carpal tunnel. That's what I tell people. But it worked out. Those are proud moments. Transitioning from federal service after 41 years was a proud moment. Looking at every year of my time of my service, when you can write your report and every year God gave you a win, oh, that's a proud moment. There wasn't a year of service that I had or a location I went to that I didn't do something wonderful, and I'm grateful for that. The typhoon, the tsunami that hit Thailand. I'm helping folks from Japan get over there to serve well. That was a proud moment, being able to respond in time.
Yeah.
So a lot of great things that serve as proud moments. So again, like I tell you, my career, I had to look at it after you read about it once it's over. It was like, girl, you was something amazing.
Absolutely.
Tell ourselves that, right? Through the
Yeah.
process, we're trying to manage someone's opinion on us. You can't operate in your position because you're aggressive, you're angry. No, I'm operating on the authority of my position. You don't get to label me with that. I'm just not going to tolerate, condone, or perpetuate your foolishness.
Yeah.
But, we are not encouraged and told it's okay to tell them, no, not today, Satan. But
Yeah.
yes, I had a wonderful career.
Oh man. Very rich, very rich, 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 rich. Korea. Wow. With that being said, Dr. Lori, what do you think people outside the government never really fully understand about the work you did?
People outside the government sometimes cannot identify the impact. So even as in service, I think there's this mindset of this perception of people who serve, whether it's in uniform or out of uniform as fellow civilians. People make these too many assumptions. Look at the mindset and the assumptions were made as it relates to the Doge efficiency push or whatever that was. You
Mm,
have this persona that soft governance is not part of governing, that it don't impact our strength as a nation. And because people don't understand the nuance of operating in that space, don't understand the significance of others serving, people take it for granted, when we say, hey, I serve so you can have the right to, be offended by me. It is so much weight on that. If people truly, truly understood the magnitude and the significance of what young people and folks go through as as relates to service, so and sometimes people just like, oh, well, government, y'all ain't doing anything. You get paid all of this and that and whatever. No, we're getting paid for the most part, sometimes less than what our corporate, partners or counterparts are getting paid. And the work that we do, it's a life-saving thing. And I think, and I know it was, I am grateful that God always gave me the ability to be mindful of what the picture looked like collectively as a whole and a photo shoot, right? So I was able to encourage and inspire folks to work in some of the craziest conditions. But man, we work with excellence, we work with pride. They worked because they wanted to work, because guess what?
mm,
At the VA, we're talking a 9 million patient population. What we did impacted them. Even
mhm,
as a veteran, yes, I'm gonna be a little selfish and biased. Let me make sure I get this right because I'm gonna be benefiting from that service. So I need it to be good. So when
mhm.
you understand the magnitude of what people in government are really doing. They're not just sitting behind a desk pushing paper. The impact of what they do,
Mm.
it keeps the United States moving and its territories. And that's a huge, you know, operation to be thinking of, but we try to compartmentalize it and mitigate it as nothing, as inefficient. No, it's not inefficient. It really is not inefficient. So I think folks just don't get and understand the gravity of the role of anyone in federal service, and that's whether you're a civilian or a military person.
Wow, that gave me chills. It really does keep America moving. Really
Mhm.
does. Wow. Yeah. That's really good. That honestly gave me chills because yeah, people definitely got to hear that. When do you think you first realized that hey, maybe I want something beyond even my government career, that it wasn't over even after 41 years?
Well, I think from the beginning, I've always known that as a believer, I'm mindful of the assignment that God has given me. And so I always want to be in service to Him. And so being in service to Him is being in service to His people. And even as I transitioned and I started my businesses, even my for-profit business has almost been like a nonprofit because again, I will give you the answer. And you call me, I'm gonna give you 10 pages of something you can use. You may not
Mm.
never call me back and say, "Oh, thank you for all of that," but look here, you got whole just talking to Lori because again, that's just how my mind works. But I always knew that, man, as long as the mind was working, as long as there's a need, there's more to do. And as a contracting officer or a former contracting officer, as I sat around the table for post-award orientations, and you're engaging these small businesses that have won these awards, a lot of them are not coming to the table prepared. Not that you don't deserve to be at the table. No, someone has only gotten you to the seat, but they haven't told you that the win is not the great
Mm.
part about the opportunity. It is the ability to sustain performance. It's the ability to posture yourself for the recompete. And so I always knew once I left that I would enter into entrepreneurship. Now my entrepreneurship journey only was delayed because of my love and commitment to my mother. So even after I got married, I was determined that my mother's latter years would be her greater years. And I wanted to do that without it being a financial or any other kind of impact to the quality of life that my husband was building for me. So I'm going to continue working so that I can make sure that my household has, but more importantly, that my mother has. What do you want? And so I'm grateful for that. That's another proud moment in my life, is being the daughter that she needed, being the daughter that she desired, because what I wanted to do was make sure her life was whole. So it delayed my entrepreneurship journey, but I always knew I would transition into a capacity of still serving people and share my knowledge, because it's the nuance behind government contracting that's going to really facilitate success and contract readiness opposed to just the hype of the win.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it's kind of what I was gonna ask next is like how, like how did you sort of realize your experience? And you told me a little bit about that, had market value outside the government. And you kind of went a little bit into you saw these small businesses step to the table, but they didn't really have everything that they needed. Um, what did you really see as your market value? What did you really think outside the government that you could bring to, I guess, corporate or to these small businesses?
Well, discipline. More often than not, folks look at discipline or don't look at discipline. They think that discipline is not a component of who we are. And so, in the space of government contracting, discipline is required. Discipline is a learned behavior. The behavior has to become, with from a readiness perspective, it's about risk mitigation from beginning to end. It's about being prepared. So, what I knew that I had that was needed of small businesses is the story behind the curtain.
Mm.
You're trying to get into an organization and obtain a win and get a contract, and that's good. If you look at the nature of contract and all those, there are those that provide products, a lot of them provide services. A lot of the services that are being provided is being through you placing a body in the seat. But because you don't understand the nuance of government, you don't understand what it means to truly onboard and shift a mindset of people. You don't prepare the person to operate on your best behalf on the other side of the table. And more often than not, you're going to see that in the smaller businesses because you've been so focused on winning because we're solopreneurs, right? And so we're trying to get the win. We don't have a massive system or just yet, but you haven't built infrastructure. Discipline requires you to slow down and do the things that are necessary to facilitate whatever goal and aspiration you have. Once you obtain it, your infrastructure and your system should be able to hold it. If you have not built the infrastructure to hold the dream that you're chasing behind, all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure. So
Mm,
it becomes understanding that there's a lot of information, especially in the GovCon space, that's going to tell you, hey, do this and do that. And I'm not saying all of it is wrong. What I need you to do is take it all, write it down, organize it, and see how you should pursue the roadmap from that perspective, because that will facilitate transformation. But if you're thinking that the cheat code is really a cheat code, no, you just got cheated because the
mm,
cheat code does not facilitate you having peace of mind. You know, you there was okay, you got the award, what now? And you want to know, you can always see the what now, because what they do, they will get on these same social media platforms and in these chat, hey, I just won a contract, what do I do next? Hey, how do I get funded for operating capital? How to do, you should have all of that already aligned.
mm.
So what I knew that I was able to do is bring truth to the space because of my lived experience. And because of the lived experience, it gives you insight into an area you would not otherwise have privy to be a part of.
I absolutely love that. And I really truly believe that too. It gives you a unfair advantage of insight into it. Um, what do you think was the hardest, from your government experience? What do you think was the hardest thing to explain to people outside the government?
Well, I've been fortunate because everything we do inside the government, there's a complementary position outside the gate, right?
Mm,
So it becomes that, earlier before we got on camera, you was talking about translating terms. And so when you're able to share with someone, hey, I'm doing this here, and this is the terminology we use here, but if this is the terminology you're using over here in the neighborhood or in your office. Same function, same thing is like let's unite conversations and terminology. So I have been able to explain what I do in layman's term because I'm going to give you an example. I often tell folks when I had to explain, oh, you're a contracting officer. Well, what do that mean? You do contracting. Hey, yeah, I have untethered, you know, um, opportunities to go shop for the government. I got the unlimited card. I get to make the decision, sign the contracts, but this is how I want you to see procurement. We live a procurement activity every day. You organizing the schedule of multiple kids and their activities is a procurement action. That's requirements development, that's establishing your scope of work, that's putting it all together. You're
mm,
doing a grocery shopping. That's created a great small, that's a small purchase. I'm gonna identify my need. We don't have no groceries. I'm gonna make up a list. That's establishing requirements. I'm gonna go into the store and I'm gonna select what I need. Because of what I'm doing, I'm making a choice, evaluating price and technical capability based on what I do and don't like, and what I think I'm getting the value of. I'm gonna make a decision, select all of that, then I'm gonna take it to the register and I'm gonna swipe out. Once I ring that up and we negotiate that price based on what it comes up on that register,
right.
man, I'm gonna obligate, give you my card. There go my commitment. We have just done a procurement action right there in the grocery store. So what I've been able to do and been blessed to do, I think, is articulate what I did on the inside of the government in layman's terms so that people can understand it better.
Yes. I think so many of us struggle with that. What are your thoughts on why individuals struggle with that sometimes to translate that language.
I think sometimes we don't know that is we can. Prior to my leaving the Strategic Acquisition Center, I had a colleague that was working there, and I think at that time, she was a GS-12,
Mm-hmm.
but you are O6 in the Guard and Reserve. You served a year abroad as the chief of contracting. You serve a year in another assignment over customer service or some other agency. So you had all of these high level positions, but you're O6. But on your resume, what you did not do was take that government title and ask Google, whomever, it was Google before it was chat or anything else, hey,
Right.
what's the GS equivalent of this here? So sometimes people don't know and don't understand. As a contracting superintendent for sergeant and all that, that's contracts manager. I at the what level? So I
Mm-hmm.
knew what's my
Mm-hmm.
degrees. So I knew how to identify the GS equivalent of a duty title,
Mm-hmm.
even in my rank.
Right.
You're For military people, we typically were working near a civilian doing that same work. What's your grade? So if you're doing that same work that they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, even in your E6, E5, E7, whatever, you are GS equivalent to whomever's on the other side of you doing the exact same thing. And
Yes.
so we have to know that it's okay to go and make the shift in the translation of the language. And it's not a hidden secret. Sometimes people just don't, it's as simple as Googling and asking the question. But
Yeah. What I thought I heard you say though is that we have to understand that we have permission
yes.
to translate it.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And when I helped her with read, because when I asked her, I said, share your resume because I'm listening to it. I said, well, how are you just a GS-12? And she said, well, I would never make the list. How are you not making the list? She sent me her resume. I cleaned up some stuff for her. I went and did the actual research to identify the appropriate GS series for her and equivalent levels. And once I did that, she automatically making GS-14 list. And hey, you did get a GS-14
Right.
promotion. But it becomes you have permission to go out there and make that transition, do that search. And the same thing about folks in the outside of government wanting to come into federal service. There's a commensurate federal job. That's why you apply because, hey, I have that same skill set. I have that same training. Okay, ask the question, what is the GS series equivalent? Even don't put down what you think it is. You know the work you've done. Go and once you find that GS series, what you're going to do, you're going to go pull up that job classification. It's
Yeah.
going to articulate to you exactly what it is. And guess what? You may not have the degree component of something, but I have my years that I've done in that work.
Mm,
That years of
yeah.
experience count. And so once you do that properly, what has happened? I could be an admin person pursuing maybe 1102 or 301 or a different kind of series, but because I've been at this equivalent level for a certain number of years, I'm going to qualify for that higher level because I've already met the time and grade at the lower level.
Mm.
So
So it's
becoming
all about owning your experience, your
experience and properly identifying the whatever, especially if you're transitioning to government from a
expertise.
civilian or even from the military, is
Hmm.
owning your experience and your time in those particular areas. Because that was how I was able to transfer from the Air Force as an E8 to a GS-13 supervisory
Yes.
because I owned my experience and my appropriate equivalence. And again, making sure my story was told accurately. So everything that I had done in my career had been properly
Uh-huh.
documented.
Now, how and I love that you were saying you were able to go from a E8 to a GS-13, and so you were able to translate that, and you took permission to say this is what I know I can do. How does that translate to someone who now says I want to transition into entrepreneurship? How do they own that transition?
Well, you own the transition by not throwing away the gifts God has given you, one. And then it becomes a mindset shift. Even for me, as I transition, again, we can know, again, I know a lot of stuff about government contracting, leadership, and a whole lot of other areas, right?
Mm,
But what I had to do was prepare my mind for the shift from entrepreneurship, from federal service to entrepreneurship. So
mm,
for 2 years, I worked with a phenomenal business coach, and I do intend to re-engage her for, again, that continued relationship. But, and I worked with other coaches and part of different programs, and I still am. But my first business coach I had, her name is Mia Redrick, and phenomenal woman out of Baltimore. But it becomes helping you with the mindset shift. So when you find the opportunity to be helped with the mindset shift, again, all it's doing is helping you settle down,
mm.
understand what it is that I need to do. Don't get caught up on the terminology you're going to use. Because what? Once we left the government, what you hear? System this, system that. That's a daggone orator.
Mhm.
What we throwing away the system for? You already know what it is. If you, this is your niche, your marketing, what the government doesn't help you develop and cultivate over time. Okay, how should I structure my organization predicated upon how I've already operated in this space? And then I just need to learn how to do it in the corporate space. So help with the mindset shift and then adding those other things. So for me, mind transition for anyone, I do recommend you just understanding that do not throw away your talent and your gifts. Any knowledge you have, whatever you desire to do, make sure it stick. If there's a lot of times there are folks that go and start businesses out of something totally different than what they spent 20, 30 years in. I mean, if you can validate that, so be it. But again, your experience is like somebody acquiring a franchise, right?
Ooh,
Because I
yes.
buy in, investing in an established organization. So I'm not starting from scratch. Why are we throwing away the franchise that is us?
Oh my God, that's so good. And I
It's your
always
mind.
say that you're not
Mhm.
starting from scratch, you're actually translating. And I love that you said you work with a business coach. And as you know, I do business coaching in helping, federal leaders transition into, turning their experience into income, ownership, and wealth. And I hear a lot of them say, and I think it's good that there's free stuff out there for federal people and for veterans as well. But the biggest hurdle is mindset. And I think it's a good thing to work with a coach. I
Mhm.
really do. And I think a lot of people skip that piece,
Mhm.
and go right to market and don't understand somewhat. Sometimes that's why they're not successful.
And that was the purpose of me establishing my nonprofit, Soar Seas Empowerment, because there is a way we can go from strategy to sanity and maintain both. And
Yeah.
so and as women and as leaders, period, even if we're, women or men, when you make that transition, and if you're running a business, I mean, a lot of leaders are bleeding while they lead. A lot of us are carrying the world. And a lot of it is you get burnout easily or you're overwhelmed because we did not give ourselves the time or the grace to become ready for the journey because someone was selling the rush, someone was selling the quick win. I mean, all of this dangling, shiny stuff. And again, we like trinkets. So we was just trinketing it away. But no, settle yourself down because the opportunities are not going anywhere, especially in government contracting space. What will happen is that they will come back around from a cyclical perspective and or a new requirement will be needed. You just need to posture yourself for that opportunity. But because we rush out here, I've had contractors, they'll call me, ask me to assist with different things. Some have been in business 10, 13 years. You're doing outreach. I review a pitch and it's my grandchild could have wrote it better. No, what is this right here? Make these 15 minutes count. Nobody care about you at this point. You're getting up in here for this 15, 20 minutes that they're giving you because you've already identified, hey, you got an issue and I can serve it. So you're going to go in and tell them about their problem and how you can fix it and let them
Mhm.
ask you more questions and about the other stuff, but not get in from that perspective. But we like discipline, we don't do research, and we don't think that we need to be mindful of our own mind. That's why we have issues with mental health throughout our nation, because so many people have gone it alone. We've been trained, we've been taught to keep it to ourselves, and especially as women of color, we've held so much stuff in. Look, I was stalked for 3 years while I was stationed at Eglin Air Force Base. Man, everybody held it in because Lori is so matter of fact, she can handle herself. And that story went until such time as my hair fell off my head. And when
Mm.
that stress induced alopecia uh, set in, I realized then, oh, I'm managing her right. I'm just blocking it, keeping it all in.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, invaded my space and I'm up in here carrying the burden. Oh no, let me release this. Let me start telling and talking about all of y'all. Even if I got to do it from a distance. And so
Yeah.
we got to know it is okay to get that. And you may need different types of coaching. Don't even just lock yourself into, but understand, hey, to your point, there is a lot of free resources that are available. And most free resources serve the masses. And so it's designed for that. But there are times where you're going to need that one-on-one. You're going to need that guided hand. Don't try to, negate the fact that you do. And yes, that's going to come at a cost.
Mm.
But man, the return on the investment, if they just do the analysis, it's so much greater than that nominal fee that you're going to render to someone for sowing into your life or soaring into your
Oh,
journey.
that's so rich. Wow. I don't even know if I need to do the other 14 interviews after this. Oh my God. Oh, this, I'm gonna play this back and listen to this. It's so wonderful. This is really wonderful. I want to transition a little bit into how you see ownership. Like, ownership, like, what does it mean to you? Like, what do you think is, what role you think it's played in like your life and your career? What do you think, what should people know about ownership, and what does that sort of mean to you? Not just making income, but ownership.
But yeah, ownership is going to mean different things to different people. For me, ownership, I mean, I have served and I continue to serve. So even as a owner, my mindset is that I'm still in service to someone because there's a need for that.
Hmm.
So with ownership, does it brings you the autonomy to establish your decisions to a degree? Because a lot of times people say, "Oh, I want to own my own so I can set my own hours, do this and so that do that." But again, if a consumer or entity is going to still be responsible for you being able to generate revenue, you still, in essence, are responding and answering to someone else.
Hmm.
Again, you get to set the terms, but we have to be mindful of that. And so, but ownership for me has just been a lifelong dream to want to become an entrepreneur, and then two, the fact that I get to make sure that I'm telling my truth and I stick to what it is that my story is. And again, it may not be popular. There are a whole lot of GovCon experts out there that call me. They do. They'll pick my brain. They'll never tell you they did, but they do.
Yeah.
But our journeys, our trajectories, our messaging it is it goes from a different perspective because I'm never about taking anyone's money. I know my value. I know my worth. I know what I have the wherewithal and the ability to do for you and to get you to where you need to be. But
Hmm.
for me, ownership is my opportunity to take again all the gifts and the assignments that God has given to me, and then create opportunities that facilitate folks getting the answer they need at an affordable price that does not otherwise impact their mental wellness on the other side of the street. So
Absolutely.
what
Absolutely.
I've done is that's why I was sharing with you about my capture proposal program platform
Mhm.
that has been launched. I have a community that I'm in the process of launching, and a master library that I'm launching, and all of the content that I poured into it, it'll be affordable for people. And it's legit content that's going to facilitate transformation in the quiet of your home so that your mind can be at rest and at peace and away from all of the chaos. And
Yeah.
so I'm flipping the script on learning models. So we're gonna see how this goes.
Oh, it's gonna go wonderful. I mean, they can't help but win because you're dropping so much knowledge in it. What advice would you give GS 12, 13, 14, 15, even a SES or senior military leader who's beginning to think about what's next for them?
For a GS 12 or 13, if you're not ready to retire, it should always be about the escalation of your career and growth. Especially a lot of GS 12s and 13s, there are so many GS 12s and 13s that are doing 15 and SES level work. We become complacent. So I ask you to challenge yourself and just push yourself to that next level, even if it requires you to relocate. And so because we get locked down to stuff, and when you sit down and you think about it, man, I don't really need all of this here. I don't have to stay attached to this here because they're not attached to me, or it's not attached to me. So
Hmm.
again, allow yourself the grace to grow and to seek other opportunities. Make sure that your resumes and your individual development plans and your training are always up to date. There's a training budget in your organization. Take the time to identify that professional development that you want to engage, add your name to that list so that the government will pay for that development and growth. Take advantage of all of those resources through OPM, and I think they still do it and may have changed it recently. Go out there and do the assessment, identify, qualifications for their lead program. Anything that facilitate your advancement, take advantage of it, especially if you're unsure about when you want to leave. Always be prepared for the next great thing. As senior leaders, as you're transitioning from military specifically, or even federal service, a lot of their transition are going to go differently. But start again, still looking at the organizations behind the curtains of them that you want to transition to, so that you can still make sure that it is in alignment with your values and your mindsets and your goals. Because at the end of the day, I could have been a consultant or advisor to large companies. I have made a conscious choice not to be so, because the pipeline of small businesses still need to be cultivated, still need to be supported, because small businesses generate incomes and job opportunities in our communities. So we still have to make sure we have the ability to take care of our families at home, right? And so we do that by, putting the information, helping that group grow and develop. But do your research. Do not take it for granted, and then know your value and your worth. When I wrote my career achievement award documentation that goes from 1979, when I started as a clerk in the stay in school program at Robins Air Force Base, all the way to my ending time at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Again, when you document your story, go document your story. Pull all of your resumes, look at performance appraisal, look at your information, make sure it tells your story, and take the time to take care of you. A
Mm.
lot of times we don't take the time to take care of us. We'll use somebody else's template. I use Career Pro Choice in Macon, Georgia to write my uh, resume as I transitioned from military service. I was always advising people as a superintendent first started, hey, get someone else to tell your story, convert that. And so that's what I did. That woman told me, she said, this is the quickest resume I've ever had to write, because again, I had told my story well.
Yes.
And so when
I
you
hear
tell,
I, I hear you say a lot throughout this interview, and this is so good to me. I heard you express understanding and telling your story. I heard you express stewarding what you know and understanding your value and your worth. And I heard you say that step out in faith and in confidence and don't ask for permission. Know that you have permission to do that. And then the last thing I just heard you really say is that walk into a purpose driven type of business. And so
mhm.
all of that just makes sense to me. And I heard you say really take care of your mind and actually work with a coach when you need to work with a coach so you can settle yourself and so you can move into your transition in a way that makes sense and feel good. No, and don't retire unless you're ready to enter that second half,
Oh,
and I know
absolutely.
a lot
Yes.
of us were forced to doing
Mhm.
Doge. but still people can practice everything that you're actually saying as they transition out. And so I just think when I look at all of it together, it's a beautiful way to learn how to transition.
Oh, yeah, well, thank you. And even still to this day, what have we done since we've been in business? These past 7 months, I've been, again, pivoting because laws change. I
Hmm.
want to make sure that the content I had postured to go out, I had to go redo everything to make sure it's still accurate and compliant to what is now.
Yeah,
So you got this, and it all comes back to what? Discipline.
yeah.
It take the season that you need to get ready for the journey. And whatever we think
Ooh,
we lost, again, it will be returned to us because of the investment we made in that foundational development. Build the infrastructure. If you got to stop the pivot, stop the pivot. I've been working on my proposal platform since 2022. I've
yeah,
been working on the book probably the same amount of time. It's going to be released soon. Been working on the community since the end of December. But again, it's all coming into alignment. And
yeah.
but what I'm doing is making sure it's good information that you can use and take in. But discipline is a learned behavior. We've already learned the behavior. Tap into it. And some of us may have to go to some remedial training, but guess what? That's okay. Don't rush your process. But there is nothing, I don't care what no one says, I don't care how much money it is, nothing beats meaningful work.
Ooh,
Every job I've had in the military, every job I had in federal service has been meaningful work. When you can identify who you support, who you serve, that's meaningful work.
that's meaningful work. Oh my God, it's so good. And I absolutely love that. And we talked a little bit earlier about entering this, or I would say already here, this whole new AI age and becoming a thought partner with professionals about it. If you had like an AI coach or had it existed when you transitioned, what would have been one of the first questions you would have asked that AI coach?
Well, that's if I had an AI coach, you how to learn it easier and quicker sooner. Because what like I well, the AI has been around for decades, even in
Yeah,
government. So being mindful of that as an acquisition professional, always understanding what's happening on the ground, right? But since my transition, I've loved everything about AI. I have tried out some of the best AI tools because again, AI is not creating something on my behalf. AI is me talking to me. That's how I see it. So I'm talking to another thought leader when I'm leveraging AI. I'm trying to put in all the basic controls behind the curtains that ain't training nothing else and being mindful that it ain't 100% fail proof. But hey, this is an extension of me. So I'm not asking it basic question. I'm not asking it to create something or a story that's not mine. But I think with AI, if I could have done anything, being mindful that I was going to transition and had I been thinking about it, I would have asked it, hey, tell me everything I need to know before I go out here on this journey so I can make this thing simple. Establish your rules of engagement. What's trending now? What's happening now? Help me understand this better. How do what's the agent? What's an avatar? There are a whole lot of things that I'm still learning to do on my own because again, I want to learn it myself. Even if I go outsource the capability, I need to know what I'm paying for. But man, AI take you through a whole lot of questions. But I probably would have asked it, hey, look, this is what I into. I would have gave it a more detailed, thought-provoking prompt of my thoughts and my intentions, so that it could help me strategize it or put it in a format that was like a checklist that I could use, but it was breathable. So it almost becomes the business plan of you moving. So
absolutely.
you create it. So tell me what I should do. This is the business plan because again, business plan become that breathable thing. So as I'm going through it, if I need to make adjustment, I can make adjustments. but it keeps me on a guided path. And so maybe my time and attention would have been a bit more focused. Or I probably wouldn't have to spend as many hours, really perfecting certain aspects of it. But yeah, I probably would ask it, hey, tell it what I'm getting ready to do, let it know my intentions. Hey, provide me a straw man, even if a straw man, high level, whatever, what's the goal? I think it was Sabrina Romanoff. She and maybe it had been Hamusi or one of them. Uh, Encouraged to always tell any of them to always express. You want your thoughts. You wanted to compare, analyze your thought to see is it aligned with the 0.1% of your industry.
Mm-hmm.
Have it, create a strategic plan. What are they doing? Because isn't that the goal? Even if you're not there yet, this
Yes.
is what I want it to be. Because this I want to end up being. What do I need to do to get there? Because again, you ask it the right questions and you tell it not to lie to you, it's going to get close to the truth,
Yes.
and it's going to
So,
give you
so
what you
I hear
need.
you saying basically, um, either help you with clarity or give you more clarity, or just sort of reinforce your clarity about where you
Mhm.
are, where you want to go, and how things
Yes.
are.
Yeah, you can't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
I get caught up with the conspiracy theories around it because most of them aren't really conspiracy theories, right? But it is what it is. We cannot operate in life in fear, right?
Mhm.
So do what you're able to do to set up the as many protocols or privacy protocols and settings as you can, but allow it to, once you lock it down as much as you're able, go ahead and talk to it. It's you.
Yeah.
If you leverage it right, and quit thinking you can use the same prompt that they're giving these basic level prompts, even with proposal writing. If you're telling me you use this prompt, and this is what my colleagues still inside of government are saying, proposals are coming in vanilla because all you all are doing is letting AI tell a story. The story ain't even yours.
Mm.
It got to be your story in order for it to be authentic, in order for it to land.
Yes.
So let it be your story. Don't review it. People say, I don't care how many times people say it, folks still don't go fact check what it says. I'm
Yes.
fact checking everything.
So having that human component to everything you're doing, and just letting it accelerate your thoughts, but
Exactly.
but
Mhm.
not replacing you, not
Yes, because
in this
AI
sense.
should never be the replacement. It should be a
Mhm.
furthering of who you are, and is an extension of your thought. Is actually articulating and putting it in a format that
Yeah,
you in a much reduced timeline.
yeah,
So now we truncated the timeline to fit this. Hey, this immediacy that I need, but it's
right.
still me. I'm gonna go review it, make sure. Yep, that's what I would say. Because again, you know what you need to say. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and save you lots of time. So I like to finish with, if you finish this sentence, federal leaders don't realize what what is something they don't realize.
Federal leaders don't realize the gems that they have walking in the aisles, uh,
Mm,
passing them day to day. Leave the office, go engage your people, go endear yourself to them. Kindness to your employees and your staff members don't cost a thing. There's nothing wrong with being warm and authentic. I have been known for walking through the building, speaking to everybody, even if you don't work for me. I'm talking to everybody, even if you don't work for me, because that's just who I am. I'm a girl from the South. I'm a Georgia peach. You know, as Southerners, we're charming folks, right?
yeah,
But we're human. We're serving together, but they don't realize the gems. They don't realize the strain. They don't realize the impact. And because you don't speak and talk to your folks, you don't know what is happening once they leave your building. You don't know how that impact comes into that building. But a word of kindness can release stress, relieve anxiety, can potentially generate a conversation where you have an answer to help them resolve an issue that they've been grappling with.
yeah,
Refer them. It's just leave your office. But a lot of federal leaders don't recognize the gems that are walking in the hallways, and there are a lot of highly competent people that are in government. and they should get the credit for that.
Yes. Is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
I don't even know. You asked some great questions. I hope that I provided you responses and answers and information that you can use. I look forward to, just staying connected. Like I shared with you
Yeah.
earlier, it is great to come full circle and still be able to not only have a professional, courteous conversation with someone you serve with, but man, we remember faces and names. So
Yeah.
it's occurrences, and so I'm just excited again and proud of you and everything that you're doing. And I wish you well. And again, as I share with you on numerous occasions, anything that I can do to support you, please don't hesitate, to let me know. And of course, there are some opportunities I think that we have synergy to do some things together. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. So am I. And that was one of the things we didn't really touch on was this vast network of people that you meet along the way
Hmm.
that add so much value to your life, and that it's always good to reconnect because for the most part, I think there's a built-in trust, when you have served alongside someone. And so I think that's a beautiful gem that sometimes we don't take into account enough.
And you're correct in that vein. And what I would encourage us to do as well is just endeavor to be more authentic and trustworthy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we have to trust us. And but we can't trust us, now we are left to whomever's devices, right? And
Yeah.
along this journey, I tell people, if I were to treat folks the way I've been treated in life, y'all would not be able to say nothing to me. You hear me? There are a whole lot of people wouldn't be able to say nothing to the Lord. But I have always told God, Lord, I thank you for protecting my heart, because He
Yeah.
protected my heart. He's always given me a love for people. So I see people, and I have a love for God's people. So I don't harbor resentment. I don't dwell on negativity. I just never
Right.
have. But
Right.
I am mindful and discernful of those who come into the space for a season and they'll leave under their own devices, especially when they feel that you are taking away their shine. I'm not in competition with anyone. I
Mm.
just know that what I do, I can do it in my sleep. That's not competition. I know that I'm thorough. I know I may have a different opposing opinion, but what I want is I want to engage the person that want the truth. I
Mm.
want to engage the person that want to be here for longer than a season. I want to engage the person that, hey, even if I help you win your first contract, you are able to see me in the grocery store, at a conference, or someplace else and say, oh my God, I'm doing well on the contract because I didn't just help you win the contract. I done told you how to be contract ready,
Yeah.
not just contract curious.
Yeah.
So, and that takes you knowing a whole lot more than just how to win the contract. I'm going to help you be just solid and able to move forward with the performance of that as well.
Yes. I was gonna ask you to close out, what if somebody was listening to this interview in 5 years, what you want them to remember? And I think you just said it. I
Hmm.
want you to be totally contact ready. And it's the relationships.
Hmm.
It's the relationship.
And that relationship being authentic,
Yeah.
let's say, answer the call if I call tomorrow.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. So I really I want to thank you again for taking the time to share your story. As someone who served in federal leadership myself, I know these stories often stay within our own circles. Yet they have so much wisdom that I think everyone deserves to hear. My hope through this project that I'm doing is future leaders won't wonder whether they're starting over.
Hmm.
Instead, they'll recognize that they're carrying decades of leadership and expertise and lived experience that can become businesses and consulting practices, investment and community impact, and even generational wealth for those who serve. So your willingness to share your journey today really helps with this possibility. I want to thank you for trusting me with your story. It's truly been an honor. And I'll just keep you updated as we finish out this project. And thank you again so much, Dr.
All
Lord.
right. Thank you so much as well. Loved it, loved it, loved it.